Warm welcome all to the first day of our lecture series. I would like to introduce Dr. A.J. Jayandan, who is going to spend his valuable time with us in the forthcoming 4 days. Actually, we feel like he's not an outsider for us. He's one among us. That's it. He's born and brought up in Angamali, Ernakulam district, and had his graduation from SS College Kaladi and PG from QSAT. And later he joined University of Hyderabad for MPhil, and there he had his research under the guidance of Dr. V. Kannan, who is one of the best topologists in India, even in the world. And both of them together had several works on dispersed metric spaces, scattered metric spaces, and related topics. There are several publications in both national and international journals. And his research work was on the dispersed metric spaces and related topics. And after completing that, he joined in Goa University and recently retired as a head of the Department of Mathematics, and hopefully will join Kerala School of Mathematics soon. The thesis was based on dispersed metric spaces and related topics, and now he's working on knot theory, which is a part of dynamical systems and related topics. Also, he's a member of American Mathematical Society and Maths Association American, and also Allahabad Mathematical Society. So, I warmly welcome Dr. A.J. Jayandan on behalf of alumni of the Department of Mathematics and all of us to start his wonderful lecture. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the kind introduction, especially what Dr. Srija said I liked, because I'm not an outsider. When you said, I was very happy. Though I was a alumni of Cochin University, I mostly associated with the Calicut University all my academic association after my graduation. So most of the time, Calicut University is the one that I keep visiting for various academic activities. So, and most faculty members and those students who have passed out, many of them I still remember, and I cherish the memory of visiting the department. And I never lose an opportunity to visit Calicut University whenever I was invited. And more than that, I also want to say one more thing, that, two things in fact. One, when you go around the country, I'm talking only about the mathematics departments. We come across a lot of Calicut University products in some of the most reputed institutes of the country. Whatever be the reason for why you don't see so many other people from other university in Kerala, I don't know. But if you look at that, that always makes us feel that the faculty members of this department must be doing something wonderful. And secondly, the amount of time the faculty members spend for organizing things. That is how I've been involved in Calicut University, which I am not involved in any other university for that matter. For the, whatever exposure that they can, make available for the students of the department, probably not only students of the department, even of the campus and, other, all Kerala. In fact, many programs they have organized, I was part of it. It was a wonderful experience, and maybe that's the mark of probably Calicut University faculty team. I don't name because I know everybody was very active. So starting from Professor Krishna Kumar onwards, everybody I know how actively they were involved in it, and I was also part of it many times. So the tradition still continues, is a very nice thing. And all the best for the department for their future endeavors. And now with this, I think I will get into my lecture. Okay. So when I was first, also let me thank again, because this time also I am invited them, and I should thank the faculty members, especially Professor Sini, who contacted me for this. So compared to when you say people are busy, I'm not all that busy. So I have enough time to spare for academic activities. I mean, generally these days, as I've retired, and I'll do something or other kind of. And then, as because of COVID, we are all stuck up. In fact, I'm quarantined with COVID right now, so I can't even get out of my room. So it is something like that. So therefore, I could spend time. So I was very happy. So she asked me 1 or 2 lectures. I said, no, don't be so short. I will give 4 hours. But then she was too generous to give me 6 hours of time. So we have enough time to discuss whatever that I thought is apt to discuss now. So thank you for the invitation. And I am not going to give a course on topology or anything. That is not. In fact, I also have taken some advice from her, what exactly she thinks is the best thing that I should discuss. So she gave me some advices. Accordingly, I have made up my mind. Mostly it is introducing topology to the graduate students. I mean, why topology, how it arises. Well, giving definition, topology, etc., you can just go to a book. They will give, you can study, and your teachers will be explaining to you everything. That is, so I don't get into that job at all. So instead, how does it arise? What is it all? Topology is all about, etc. So that's the main aim of my lectures. So let me start with, and I'm not very familiar with this Google Meet. I have given a few lectures, but all the time I was using Zoom. Of course, Zoom or Meet or whatever the platform that we use, I don't know how satisfactory the communication will be. So let's try to do the best. And I suggest the students or participants, if they have any difficulty, please raise their hand. Because if I can get some little bit of communication with them, I would be happy. There is, in your platform, in your screen at the bottom, there is a raise hand. There is a thing. So if you probably click that, I suppose so, click that. Somebody, the information will be probably notified on the screen saying that somebody has raised the hand, so that I can, communicate with that person. So that, instead of a monologue, we should have a bit of a dialogue, so that anybody can. And if anybody wants to interfere my lecture, they are most welcome to give comments or, explaining again, or some other way you want to explain, because there are expert teachers like Professor Ramachandran there would be interested in explaining things in probably different ways. So I would be very happy to listen to them also, rather than making it a monologue lecture by me, which I am not very particular. It should be a discussion kind of a thing, as at the best. I mean, of course, I can't see the faces of most people to really understand whether people have been following what I'm talking or not. So you can. And then finally, I had given a series of lectures in topology recently. So somewhat similar lines I would be discussing. And some of the names that I've been just looking at it, some of them are probably familiarity because of people attended those lectures, I don't know. So if you think it is not going to do much better, good for you, you need not attend also. Okay, I'm just saying, because it may probably be a repetition of what you have been seeing. So you can avoid. Okay, with this, I'll get into what I want to discuss. Okay, so I will switch over to my presentation because I cannot write things because of some personal reasons. So I normally prepare some slides, and then and that itself is something very unconventional personally to me, but there's no other option. Therefore, I need something to be shown what I'm speaking. So therefore, I'm presenting them. So let me see how do I present it. When we started learning mathematics in our earlier days, in our childhood, we started learning numbers. Numbers basically used for counting purpose, etc., etc. And later, after some stage, we started learning, geometry, where we have to measure areas, etc., etc. That is how naturally numbers come into our studies, at least human civilization. First, of course, counting. Counting is also a kind of measuring, and so is area measurement. Then volume, sometimes weight, time. This is how number naturally gets into our civilization, and of course curriculum. So what are the things that we do at that time? At least when we are in school, we just do, with the numbers, what we do, we measure. We can also do something more with the numbers themselves, namely you can add, multiply, etc., etc. These things we learn at the earlier stage, the arithmetic of, numbers. And of course, starting, we have integers or natural numbers, then probably integers. Then you have fractions. You are forced to divide things into pieces, and you get, during your measurement techniques, you need to get into rational numbers. So then their operations, adding, multiplying, etc., etc., basically arithmetic. So, but then what happens at some stage, you realize that not all measurement can be done using these methods. We get into real difficulty. Of course, if you have a rectangle, if you know the sides, then obviously you know the area very easily. We can write the area. Maybe triangle, maybe some such nice figures you can have. But as you move further, you will find some areas which cannot be, the area cannot be computed so easily with all that simple methods, arithmetic that you have. For instance, when I'll give some examples, I've listed at least a couple of them. A simple one, length of the curve. Some curved kind of a path, what is the length? Or area of some, region which may not be rectangle, triangle, etc., which are easier to do. For instance, very simple example like a circular region. So these are the instances our standard arithmetic methods does not help us to do it. I'll just give you some hint of how do we attempt. So let us look at the circular region itself. So take a circle. Okay, so how do we measure the area? It is very interesting to note that length of the curve becomes probably a little later than actually area. Though area is a more complicated object, when it comes to our practical purposes or even in our curriculum, length of the curve is rarely being discussed in any of our earlier earlier curriculum. But area of regions we still discuss. That's the reason I took area. How do we do this? How do we measure the area? And that's a tricky area. So what we do is, what we can measure, let us do. Take a, see now, inside that I take a, this looks like a square. I never wanted to be, to make it square or anything. It's not exactly. Some rectangle. The interesting thing is, for the rectangle, we can actually find the, write down the area. Provided, of course, you know the length of the sides. So, but then you know that this is not the whole area of the circle. So what do? So this is certainly less than the area, this area of this rectangle, but not equal to. So but we are interested in looking at the area of the circle. So what we do, we add some more things. What do? We add a few more. Now you see that we could make some more rectangles on that side. There we can measure the area. Again, length into breadth. So that gives you area. Add them. Now probably totally 4 plus 1, 5 rectangles have been added. Add their area. So all that you need is multiplying numbers and then adding. So arithmetic helps you. Even this, those on the border, you still have a lot of places which we have not measured. But this areas that we have summed up will be certainly less than the area of the circular region, but not equal. So we can do further, of course. Now, I mean, we understand how we go further. Let me do some more. So more and more rectangles have been taken from whatever is not measured. And again, their areas can be computed and added to it. But you can still notice that lots of regions are still left out unmeasured. So if you add up all these rectangular regions, they are all disjoint, of course, kept disjoint. You get some real number as the sum of the areas. Now, this, of course, one way I did, there are many ways you can do. And all these numbers that this number that you're getting is certainly going to be less than the area of the circular region. You can still doing it. I mean, pictorially, it's maybe difficult, but you can keep on doing this. So what is happening to this? So you keep on getting some numbers, all of them at present in our context will be less than the area of the circle. What is that we are actually doing? We divide the circular region into rectangles. And there's just one word I want to use, finite number of rectangles. Pairwise disjoint. Then separately you find the area, then add them. So this is purely arithmetic. So there's no issue, nothing. Add and, multiply. The length of the sides, you get area, then finite number of them, you add them, so you get this region. So this, I showed one picture, but everyone can say, have their own ways of doing whatever, kind of figures that you take. I took rectangle, you can take a triangle, you can, or some other region, similar kind of, shapes, which you can measure the area by using arithmetic and then add them, you get some number. So you get similarly a lot of numbers. What about the area of the region? You take any one of them. Let me stick to rectangle alone for the time being. You stick to any number that is obtained as the sum of the areas of this rectangular partition of some portion, not the whole of the circular region. You will keep getting a lot of numbers. None of them will be equal to the area. But the interesting thing is, you make 5 more and more smaller and smaller rectangles. Wherever it is missing, you keep on adding, you get bigger and bigger numbers. As I said, none of them will be equal to. Area will be this numbers. If you take all such numbers, so anybody can partition it into rectangles and finite number of rectangles, add them, add their areas, you get a number. So take all such possible numbers. Then the area of the rectangle will never be, because circle can never be written as a union of finitely many rectangle. So you will never get the area of. But what is interesting is that these numbers will start going closer and closer and closer to the area of the circular region. What is the meaning of closer and closer and closer? So suppose C is the area, then C will never be one of them. That's the first thing. Let's confirm. But you can see the border in this circular region. There are some areas which we have not measured. So these are the missing regions that we have not measured while making this computation. I want to minimize this missing. Minimize doesn't make sense because minimum should be 0. So that doesn't make sense. But I want to say it should be small. So that is the error. What you have measured and what actually the area of the circular region, the error is the one that is in the boundary that you can see. It looks like triangular at some place, but none of them is a triangle because your boundary is a curved, it's an arc. So it will not be. So that missing area should be minimum, so that I can, even if I don't get the whole exact area, I will be very close to the area. Is it possible? And the answer is yes. So now you tell me how much area you are willing to miss. Then there will be a partition for this disk into rectangles such that finite number of rectangles such that when you add up the area, the error will be less than what you want. So that means the actual area minus the sum of these areas of the rectangles will be less than the error that you put. So this is the place, where you talk about the so-called limiting. You will never get the area in this process, but you can go any close you want to the area you decide. You say you want it to be closer than, the error can be less than 0.1 unit. That is possible. 0.01 unit. Yes, another partition will give you that. Still smaller, 0.0001. Yes, you will find a partition of this into rectangles so that the area will be the actual area minus the sum of the areas of the rectangle will be less than 0.000 whatever that prescribed error that you are willing to concede. So this is what is meant by saying the area will become limit of all these numbers. What are all the numbers? The numbers is all the numbers obtained as sum of rectangles, areas of the rectangle, partitions of of the circular region. So let us get into a little more. Of course, all these are somewhat the vague way I said. So that's where the so-called arithmetic fails, or the standard algebra fails. You will have to get into something called analysis, people say. So to actually describe that, you require not just multiplication and addition alone, but you need something called a limiting. So let us take a subset. The example that we had is, let us call this A to be all the numbers that you obtain as the sum of areas of the rectangular partition. So for each partition of the circular region into pairwise disjoint rectangles, and then you sum up the areas, you get a number. So each person can have any number of them. In fact, there are infinitely many ways of doing this. So each of them gives a number. All of them will be measure. area of this inner portion which has been obtained as the union of the rectangles. So take all these numbers. Now we say that the actual area will not be here in this A. That is the first thing that you should realize. The actual area will never appear this, but for any small error that you're willing to give, I can find one of the numbers that is obtained as the sum of the areas of the rectangles will be closer than that to the area. So this is what? So let us take. So then A contains numbers arbitrarily close to the area of C. What is meant by arbitrary close? That is a very, it's a colloquial way of saying arbitrary close means any close you want, you can do. Of course, depending upon the closeness. Closeness means what? The distance, basically. How far they are different from each other. You tell me how much close you want to go, then we will get some number in A that is at a distance less than that error that you prescribe from C. So more rigorously we can write, given any epsilon, this is the error that you are going to prescribe. That is your choice. Anybody can give me an error. Then there will be some number in A. Of course, I don't keep repeating what is A. A is all those areas that you have measured and kept. Then there is a number in A that is at a distance less than epsilon from actual area from C. So you may not get actually C, but you can get as close as you want. You can get closer than epsilon. Which epsilon? Now you can decide any epsilon. Then there will, depending upon the epsilon, remember that's very important. If your epsilon becomes smaller and smaller and smaller, your A will be changing. As you said, there will be too many small rectangles will have to be added to ensure that you are closer than epsilon to the actual area, your measured area. So let me write this. This is a formal way of writing it. Sometimes you should learn this also, the art of the language of mathematics. So mathematics has its own language, which would also indicative of how to prove a statement or how to understand a statement in our own language. So you can see the last line that I have written is addressed to the students. So that essentially, is the language of mathematics, which says how you try to understand it, which is common to all of us, which a non-mathematician may fail to understand what is being written, but a mathematician should always understand. Let me read this. For any given epsilon positive or for all epsilon positive, that means I'm going to make a statement which is true for any positive real number. So for every given positive number, some property has to be true. What is that? There must exist an element of A in A, capital A, such that the distance between C and modulus of C minus A, that's the distance between C and A, is less than epsilon. So this is what we have been telling. Now remember this A, there exists A in A when we say it depends on the epsilon. Depending upon the epsilon, A will also change. So, but what is ensured is that A will be closer than epsilon distance from C. So if this happens, then we say, there is a technical word used, A is a limit point of, C is a limit point of capital A. Let me stop for a while, and I want to know whether anybody wants to ask some questions. Should I try to, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
There was no break, right?
No.
So I just want to know, in case there is a break, because I don't see a face, I don't see anything. I'm talking to my screen, actually. So I really don't know what is happening on the other side. And that's natural. I mean, I can't do anything beyond that. But at the same time, keep my number with you. So in case my connection missing or something, please give a missed call.
Okay, sir. I will call you.
Yeah, because all right. So anybody wants to ask a question, please let me know before I go further. I trust people are comfortable with what I said. So, I mean, this, of course, in R, I don't work too much into limits concepts in R, because that you must have done many times. This is the actual jump that takes place from school mathematics to your higher secondary studies. That's where probably I know the first time you come across something called a limit, and which is of course a confusing thing, unlike your arithmetic. So I hope you have been seeing this. So I just gave some examples to motivate it. It's very important. Similarly, whatever I did from inside the rectangle, circular region, you can do same thing from outside also. You get bigger numbers, cut down regions that are outside by cutting it down into smaller and smaller rectangles. Rectangular pieces you remove and then make it smaller and smaller. So this process can also give, but that's not very, you can understand what it means. You can try. Okay, so this is about R. The same thing. All of you are, I hope all of you are familiar with the Euclidean space. In the plane, this is already, these numbers are all in real numbers. So on the real number set of real numbers, I said, what is the meaning of a point, an element, a real number being a limit point of the set A. There is a small thing which probably might be irritating some of you. I thought somebody might ask that question. So nobody asked, it doesn't matter, but still it's my duty to tell. Most of the time when you study limit point, which is, I suppose, yeah, this is it. It's called a limit point. This word in most conventional textbooks or even education generally say that there must be an element of A which is other than C. It's a very standard practice in most places. But in my definition, I don't insist that. There are reasons for that. See, it's a language, it's a word for which we give a meaning. So you shouldn't get unnecessarily confused about it. I use this notation. The other definition, other concept that there should be an element of A other than C, whose distance is less than epsilon always. Such a thing I normally call cluster around C. It's a cluster point, I say, or some people call it adherent point or accumulation point, etc. So for me, limit point means it's enough. This, there is an element of A, need not be other than C. So if it is C, then C minus A is 0 is certainly less than epsilon. So we are done. So we have no objection, no problem with that. So therefore, if there is any difficulty, please take care of it, because many textbooks don't use this for limit point. And for this concept, there is no parallel word used by anybody. But I want this concept, I want to insist this concept, to go further. That is why I included A equal to C also into my definition. So please take care. Okay. All right. Let's now go to Rn, the Euclidean. So this is So a subset of Rn you take. Now I think if you have understood this definition well, I can easily go to limits in Rn. So what is the meaning of C is a limit point of A? Capital A. Same way, if there are elements in A that are arbitrarily close to C. What does it mean by arbitrary close? So you decide how close you want. Then you can find an element of A which is closer than that to C. That's exactly the meaning of arbitrary close. So I have just marked there. So that means you decide how close you want. Any number any positive number you can decide. Then there will be an element of A which is closer than that to C. This should happen for anybody giving you a positive closeness. So how do we write? Given any epsilon positive, that is the closeness that you want, there is an element of A closer than epsilon to C. So it's not much different from what you saw in R. It's exactly the same, except that the meaning of closeness is different. There it is modulus. Here it is Euclidean distance or whatever distance that you say. So we can rewrite this mathematically like this. For every epsilon positive, there exists an element of A such that I use this notation believing that you have seen this. Norm is actually square root of, if you write C as C1 etc. Cn and A as A1 etc. An. So this is C1, C2 etc. Cn minus A1, A2 etc. An. That is what happens, which is C1 minus A1 etc. Cn minus An. That norm means square root of sum of the squares of the coordinates. That is square root of sigma Ci minus Ai the whole square. So that is what the meaning in Rn. So now basically what is that we want? Some measure, some distance between points is all that is required. So from the limit concept, you can even extend it to anywhere you have a distance notion. We started with R. This is how we progress. Then Rn. Now wherever you can talk about a distance, wherever you have the notion of a distance, you can ask this question, will C be a limit point of capital A? Yes. How do we? So let us see this in a metric space. That is what probably I believe you all have seen, where you have a notion of metric distance. So then again you can talk. C is a limit point of A if there are elements of A arbitrarily close to C. It's the same definition, because we can still talk about what is meant by arbitrary close. The closeness can be determined by using your metric. So what will be this? I'm sure you can anticipate and think in your mind for a while before I display. Just prepare your definition in your mind. Students, I'm asking the students. I'm audible, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Audible.
Somehow I can't communicate with them. I don't know how do I do that. See, now the screen is disappeared.
Yes.
Screen disappeared, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Now it does come.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just trying. For Zoom, I know how to manage. Here, I don't know that much. Okay. So this is the definition. I hope all of you have got it, because I wanted some of you to talk to somebody who will probably in turn give me back, because two definitions I gave, exactly same thing I'm repeating. So I expect students to return me rather than I present it. I don't know how that is manageable without stopping sharing. So let me see here. Yeah, I think I can go screen. Now it is now the screen is my screen, right? What is that is visible now?
Your screen, sir.
Not the presentation.
And Google Meet screen.
Google Meet screen. Okay, so I think I can do that so that I can talk to students and Okay, let me get back. So this is a chance I missed. Now let me now ask. Can somebody formally tell me how do I write limit? C is a limit point of A in a metric space. Oh, this is good. If somebody raises his or her hand, I would be very happy. Some student. Yes, Vinita. Vinita? Please unmute.
Yes.
yourself.
Yes, sir.
Can you give me the definition? Can you give me? Vinita?
No, sir, I didn't remember that.
You don't have to. See, there is nothing called remembering in mathematics. We never remember things in mathematics. We understand and that's it. We don't have to remember. You look at the definitions are given, what would be natural, think in that way, right? Because I'm not asking you to recall anything older thing. Forget that. Now we are discussing here. So from whatever we have seen here, we must be able to do. That's all I'm asking. Can you? Anybody else? If anybody can, please raise your hand.
Sir.
Yeah, somebody. Yes, please. Introduce yourselves.
So I'm Jairam Prakash.
Jairam Prakash. Okay, tell me.
For every epsilon greater than 0,
Yeah.
there exists a point A belongs to capital A such that D of C and C comma A is less than epsilon. Is this
That's
correct,
very good.
sir?
That's very good. That's very good. I like that. And this is how we are going to proceed. So I have written whatever you said. Very good. So that there are two purposes here. One, of course, I also get a breathing time. And secondly, you get a chance to learn, others get time to think. Otherwise, it will become a monologue, which I don't like. So that's exactly. So the difference is, instead of the norm notation, it is just distance, distance. So what does this say? Tell me whatever positive real number, that's what is the error that I'm allowing. Then there will be an element of A that is at a distance less than that. That means error will be less than epsilon. We may not get C in A, but we get an A whose distance from C is less than the permitted error or permitted, difference that. So I can go closer than epsilon to C. Now, if you give me smaller C, you can get another A, which is still closer than that epsilon. Any epsilon, this should happen. So you can go any close you want to C using elements of A. Then we say that A is a limit. All right. I suppose that's a good place to go ahead. Now let us rewrite what we have seen again. C is a limit point of A if and only if. Let me get back to this. In R, can somebody, give me the definition in R? I still don't get a full, Yeah, somebody, yes.
Hello, sir.
Is it Babita?
No, sir. Anjana.
Anjana. See, Vinita and Babita have raised their hand. If they have nothing to ask, please unraise it. Okay, please. Yeah. Anjana, right?
It's Anjana, sir.
Oh, Anjana MP. Okay, I have seen. You didn't raise hand, so I couldn't make out. Okay, tell me.
Yes, sir. Given epsilon, for
Yeah.
every epsilon greater than 0, there exists a point in A
Yeah.
such that mod A minus C is less than epsilon.
Yes. So I have this. I've already done, but I just want to. In R, this is the definition. Okay. So now see this. Let's mathematics. What happens is you get something, then you start looking at it from different, because that helps us to understand things better. So let me just read this statement that you have said now. For every epsilon, there is an element of A whose distance from C is less than epsilon. Fine. That's fine. That means, where is this A going to be? That's my next question. Can you draw the real line and plot your C? And can you tell me where will this A be? What is given is that its distance from A is less than epsilon. If anybody, if you have an answer, please raise your hand. This is, Zoom is much better for these purposes. All right. Anybody? Draw a line, plot your C, and now, because C is fixed, your A keeps varying depending on your epsilon. So, where will this A lie? The only thing assured is that distance between A and C is less than epsilon. So can you tell me where will this A be? Who is this? Shafia? Shifa. Okay, Shifa. I'm sorry, I wrongly read it. Tell me.
It will be in the open interval C minus epsilon, C plus epsilon.
Very good. So it will be in the open interval. So C will be in the open A will be in the open interval C minus epsilon, C plus. That means A belongs to capital A as well as C minus epsilon, C plus epsilon. That means it belongs to the intersection. So there is an element in the intersection of A and C minus epsilon, C plus epsilon. Now I'm rewriting it in a different way. Look at that. It's the same statement. Set is non-empty means there is an element in it. That means there exists an element in common to C minus epsilon, C plus epsilon, and A. Therefore, the element is in A and modulus of C minus A is less than epsilon. It's the equivalent statement. It's the same statement. I want to ask, generally, if anybody has a difficulty, please stop me. We will, discuss. If not, I will keep going. So, because I'm still not able to get a good hold of this software, how to communicate very well with you. Therefore, only crying baby gets milk. Unless you start questioning, you will never, learn. So never stop asking questions. So don't hesitate. Please ask questions whenever you want. You can raise your hand. We will stop. And if I have not seen somebody raising the hand, so one of these organizers can just, stop me and say that somebody is asking a question. But I still have this 2 raised hands. They have not unraised it. Okay. So so what did we say? So now let me get back. So this is what an equivalent way of saying the same thing. It's exactly the same, except that it's written now in a very different way. There is no modulus. It is 2 sets intersect. You can see from point-wise right up, we are getting to set-wise right up. See, this is very important. That's the same thing, but looking at it in a very different way. For every epsilon positive, this set is non-empty. A particular set is non-empty. It is different from what we wrote. Now let us get into Rn. In Rn, this was the definition. Can anybody give a similar statement for this? As the previous statement, can anybody give a similar statement for equivalent statement for this? Maybe I will read it again. The statement says, sorry. This is the problem with these kinds of software. For every epsilon, there is an element in A whose distance from C is less than epsilon. Earlier one, it means the interval intersect A. Can you make a similar statement in this context, equivalent? I don't know whether you saw when my finger claimed it. Then the joy is gone. Nobody is saying anything.
So we have to take the product of that intervals.
Product of, who says, who is that?
Sir, this is Babita, sir.
Babita. Okay, Babita. See, after you discuss, do you know how to, I don't know how to do it, unclick that raise hand. Otherwise, I always think you are again and again discussing. Okay, so what does that mean? What is the statement? Good, that's right. That's exactly what I want. Okay, so what is the statement? Your A should have the property that the distance from C will be less than epsilon. So A should belong to some set. This is what? From twice distance notion, we want to get into set. So can you tell me which set A belongs to? So now let me make a little more clear. So anybody who has an answer, please tell. So there is an A. I would not say the distance notion. It belongs to some set. There is an A in A which belongs to some set which has something to do with C and the distance, the epsilon. Very similar to what we have seen in the interval. Anybody? I want all of you to think. No? What is where will this A be? If the distance between A and C is less than epsilon, C is fixed. By the way, C is a fixed point. So where will this A belong to? What is the set in which A belongs to? No answer so far. So start thinking, okay, this is important. Otherwise, I will just say something and you listen. That is not enough. We should talk to each other. It should belong to an open ball of radius epsilon around C. So your A should belong to that. That means this point A, which is common to capital A as well as the open ball. Or in other words, capital A and the open ball will have a non-empty intersection. This is what it is. I didn't put a bracket, it should have been there. For every epsilon positive, this set is non-empty. So there is no distance notion explicitly written here. For instance, I don't want to know the distance between C and A. I only have to know the open ball to make this decision. There is a difference between that. Distance is a much more concrete object, whereas the open ball is a somewhat a I mean, more general kind of a, object. Okay, if you have understood this, now I have a question. Can you formulate similar for metric spaces? A similar statement can you formulate for metric spaces?
Hello, sir.
Yes? Who is this?
Arjuna, sir.
Yeah.
In the metric space, we can say like for every epsilon greater than 0, there exists a point in A.
Yeah.
That
Yes.
D of AC is less than epsilon.
Epsilon.
Where D is the metric.
Now I want you, can you think, or thank you, let me ask generally, let's see whether others can have an answer. Now can you formulate it using purely on set theory, sets, rather than, you know, the distance notion? Let's see whether anybody has an answer. See, you have already seen how we did it in R, then Rn. Now in a generally in a metric space, exactly similar formulation. So I'm sure you must be able to do it. Anybody can answer that? Yes? Who is there? Shifa. Is it Shifa? You're not audible. Yeah, you're not. Okay, tell me. Yeah.
0.
Yes.
In the section, the ball of radius epsilon, so level C is non-empty.
I couldn't hear you quite well. Can you repeat it? Are you have internet connectivity problem, or your sound is breaking?
I will repeat, sir.
Okay, let me hear.
C is said to be a midpoint of the metric space A. The matrix is for every epsilon greater than 0.
Yes.
A intersection CD of C A is non-empty. That is, the ball around C with radius epsilon intersection A is non-empty.
Okay, that's good. That's good. So in metric spaces, if you go further, it's you know, I have written it this way. Now I will repeat. I will write what she said. So C is a limit point of A, if and only if for every epsilon positive. Actually, it is exactly the same symbol here also. I use the same symbol because that's the general notation. The open ball of A, open ball, of radius epsilon with C as center will intersect E. So now, from the distance, what restriction, we slowly came out. So we say that C is a limit point if and only if two sets will have non-empty intersection for every epsilon positive. So I will write all those finer statements alone. This is the one. So in R and in, it's just rewritten. Complete all metric, all distance things have been removed. Now it says in R for every epsilon positive, the interval C minus epsilon, C plus epsilon intersection A is non-empty. The case of Rn, for every epsilon positive, the ball BC epsilon will intersection A is non-empty. Similarly for metric spaces. Okay, so I just want to know, we are at 825 plus. So probably this is the right time to stop because we it's better keep timing and then we will look at this. But let me hear from Sini. Yeah.
Hello. Sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, just give them time if anybody wants to ask a question, and I want you people to think of it. I mean, all of you. And if you have any doubt right now, please, they can ask. So far, whatever I said, I don't think you need notes or anything. This has been just recalling of what has been happening. I mean, how things progress into the so-called topology is what we are. I'm just guiding you. So therefore, no need to write these things. Try to think with me. I mean, that is the best thing. Yeah, anybody has any doubt?
I think.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, who is speaking? Sini. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Tell me. I don't think anybody has any doubt so far. So probably.
Yes, sir. We already informed them that if they have any doubt, they can write in the chat box. But there is no.
Okay, so chat box, I don't know whether I will be able to see chat. It doesn't matter this time.
But there is no question, sir, here.
Yeah. Oh, chat box is the one that is appearing on the screen?
Yeah.
Okay. That's good. I mean, I'm trying to learn that. Good.
If participants have any doubt, they can write in the chat box also.
Okay. How do I open chat box? Where is it? It's what is?
Sir, you stop presenting.
Okay. Then only I can access chat box.
Yeah.
Okay. So that is while discussing, while giving lecture, this is always difficult because once you stop, then again all these process will have to be, and we're going to start presentation. Anyway, that's okay. But you can inform me. It's all right.
Okay. But there is no question today.
Okay, that's fine. So in case something is there, please remind me tomorrow. So otherwise, probably we will, wind up today.
Yeah.
If that is fine. Now you can take over. Yes. So I stop presenting.